Hi, King here, and I estimate that the new One Piece reboot will be coming out around 2030, with the prior one that we've been following for over 20 years finishing up before then. And I believe the reboot will change a lot of different things we know about the story just to keep the whole show fresh for the older audiences returning to watch it. Because One Piece fans don't watch the anime for the animation, but for the overall stories and mysteries, though manga readers will agree that the animation is the cherry on top. And while the reboot will have greater, crisper animation, I also believe it will change some stuff around just to make the overall story tighter and more sensible. Because Oda had to retcon a lot of things later on because of all the stuff he was adding on to the story just to make it longer with its growing popularity. I feel this reboot will be Oda's second chance at making a story that flows a lot better with all the stuff they now know beforehand. With one of which being the subject of this video, setting up a proper rivalry between the three supernovas Monkey D. Luffy, Trafalgar D. Water Law, and Eustace Kid. As we all know, Oda loves to introduce tons and tons of characters, while also rarely killing off characters just in case he wants to use them for later. But a big weakness of this is that sometimes we'll go hundreds of chapters, which equates to years in real life before we see a cool and interesting character again, just for them to be pushed back into the background once another character gets introduced. And yeah, this has happened a lot to a lot of One Piece characters, but inexcusably, Law and Kid, who are supposed to be Luffy's rivals in this overall story. So I believe a good change that the reboot could do would be to introduce Kid and Law way early on, around the time that Luffy is recruiting his crew. I mean, they're supernovas, the worst generation. They all started up around the same time, right? And they all have aspirations to be the Pirate King. True, for different reasons, but still, they're all still driving towards the same goal, which puts them towards the same direction. And I'm not saying to fully divide the story up between Luffy, Law, and Kid, but you could still have the focus be on Luffy's adventure and him gathering his crew, while also having Law and Kid cameo a lot more than they did in the prior series, while having them stay a lot longer and interact a lot more if it's a story that definitely could use or benefit from them being there. For example, you could have had Luffy first meet Law on Drum Island, where he would be researching a bunch of abandoned medical books, trying to further his growth as a doctor. And this could simply be a cameo without Law having to aid Luffy with saving Drum Island from Wappo, as he at this point would still be distancing himself from anything that would cause him unnecessary problems. But we could still have hints from this interaction of Law's devil fruit powers, his animosity towards pirates who like to bully the weak, and his goals to become the Pirate King. And another example they could do for Kid would have him first meet Straw Hat during the Skypiea arc, and with having him with his crew try to find the City of Gold for their own reasons will inevitably get them wrapped up with the fight with Enel too. And you would ask yourself, what will even be the point of that, having Kid and his crew be introduced this early on just to get trashed by Enel? But I argue it wouldn't really go down the way you think, as the only reason Luffy had a chance against Enel was because his devil fruit seemed to be the only weakness to Enel's devil fruit. But with Kid's power giving him control over electromagnetism, I believe it would also give him resistance and manipulation over electricity as well, allowing him to also have a chance against Enel. Basically, with the difference between the two being that Kid would lose because of a lack of willpower and him not being the main character, and Luffy would win due to Kid's interference helping to weaken the Thunder God Enel. Having Kid acknowledge Luffy, even just a little bit, as a strong pirate and a potential contender for Pirate King that he'll need to beat up mercilessly. Basically putting Luffy on Law and Kid's radar early on, while also developing Luffy's drive not to lose to these guys on their quest to the One Piece. making for greater storytelling overall, as you can have Law and Kid show up on any island that the Straw Hats go to, and it would make sense as they're all striving for the One Piece, either playing a protagonist or antagonist role depending on whatever the story on that island demands, while still consistently being rivals to Luffy. You could have Kid challenge Luffy to a Davy back fight to try and win Frankie onto his crew, since their abilities and powers would benefit one another. And you could also have Law show up during the Thriller Bark arc, where he would be put in a situation where he would have no choice but to help out Luffy against Gecko Moria. And as their rivalry grows, so does their companionship with one another, to the point where you could even replace Crocodile and Ivankov with Kid and Law, having the two help Luffy at the Battle of Marineford to try and save his older brother, aka Goldie Roger's son, aka Ace. I mean, Law ended up showing up there anyways to save Luffy, so why couldn't he have been there from the beginning helping him out? And Kid could have been there, you know, to mess with the Marines and cause chaos, but could have heard whispers and talks about Shanks showing up there, so he could have been there waiting for him, and it could have been a nice twist. And this could just set up for a well-balanced rivalry between the three, as fans could really grow to love Kid as a proper foil to Luffy, seeing him as a underdog compared to him, while seeing Law as an overachiever compared to Luffy. With all of it building and accumulating to the ceiling fight on Onigashima, with the 5 supernovas, the 3 rivals and their 2 right hands, Zoro and the Killer, being more well-earned than it was in the prior series, especially with Killer and his interactions being introduced way early on. But these are just my thoughts on what the One Piece reboot can do to make the rivalry between the 3 be better paced and more well-earned, just so fans can love it when all 3 triumph, as well as hate it when bad things happen to any of them, and really build suspense and drama within the fandom on who out of the 3 could claim the One Piece the second time around. If you agree with these thoughts, then like, share, subscribe, and follow, as I'll be making more of these One Piece 2030 videos. Comment your thoughts below and ring that notification bell so you know first when those videos drop. Thank you and stay great.